divorce rates are increasing, making it very vital for us to have open discussions and address all the conflicts that arise, especially when children are involved. While divorce means the legal end of a marriage, it does not mean the end of the family life for the child. Hello everyone and welcome to the Navin Times Talk from the Heart. Our guest today is Gracie Andrew. She is a consultant psychologist with more than 25 years of experience. She is also the ex-executive director of Sangat. And at present, she has her own online clinic where she consults Indian as well as international clients. Gracie, thank you for coming on our show, and we're really looking forward to speaking with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
As I said, it is hard, not just for the partners, but then when a child is involved, it becomes really difficult. If parents have decided, a couple has decided that they want to go ahead with their divorce, how do they tell their child? Because you have to think about so many things. So how do parents go about it?
So, what parents tell their child depends first of all on the age of the child.
Right.
Especially how they say it. So if a child is very small, they don't understand all the complex issues around divorce. So what the parents have to do is they have to give them the message that they love them, that this is something that it's between two adults, that we are going to be living separately, or what are the living conditions that are going to follow, for the child to kind of understand what's happening. But for a very small child, they don't understand all the complicated feelings. So you have to they'll be more bothered about who's going to take me to school, or who's going to give me food, who's going to cook for me. So very, very simple messages on what's going to happen next, but all the time making them realize that, or making them feel that they both love
the child.
Yes. And as the child grows older, they are more, they basically understand better about the feelings that are around this, or the complications. But when it comes to a 6 to 10 or 11-year-old, they tend to start fantasizing that maybe it's because of them. So there's a lot of guilt. They feel maybe I was naughty, that's the reason this is happening. Or they may feel that, they may fantasize saying, maybe if I do something, my parents will get back. So you have to remember that at that age, the messaging has to be the same thing. That this is between mama and papa of, both of us, two adults who now we feel, we're having difficulties and we want to be apart. But it's got nothing to do with our love for you. So the message should be the same, but one has to be aware of what that child may be thinking or feeling. And an older child understands this much better, but they may pretend that they're not bothered. Especially adolescents, they will never show their feelings easily. So, but we have to be aware that the child, even though he's old and he may be kind of not reacting, he's actually feeling bad about it. So giving them opportunities to talk about their feelings, giving them opportunities to express, but at the same time making them realize that we love you and it's got nothing to do with you, what's happening between us.
Right. But like you rightly said, the younger children, it is much easier to make them understand because they don't actually comprehend everything that's going on. But as the children grow older, there is a lot of anger, right? That's the first thing. I know, because sometimes there are children who, first and foremost, they pretend they haven't heard, like you said, they haven't heard anything, they're not bothered. And there are some who become very violent, very angry, right? So if it is a 16 or an 18-year-old, how do I approach this age group? Let's start from 13 to say 18. What do I say?
So for the older children, you can explain a little more about the relationship. They may have even seen heard the fights. They already know that there are problems happening. So being able to be honest and talk to them that these conflicts are happening, it's not making either of us happy, we are unhappy being together, and it's good, it's better that we live apart. But that doesn't mean daddy, if a mother is speaking, the mother would say that, you know, that he doesn't love you or I don't. But there's one issue that I just wanted to bring up is if one of the couple is violent, if for example if the male is violent, there's a lot of abuse and the child has seen, then the approach would be slightly different. Say for example there's a divorce after some kind of physical abuse that's been happening, the child has seen that, then, and it's an older child, so you have to be very careful on how you talk to the child about it, that this is not okay, without putting the blame and saying that your father is bad, or bringing all the conflicts and shouting or talking about it in front of them, but making them realize that I think this is not working out, so we have to be apart, and being that nurturing parent for this young person or the adolescent that's growing. So that's one. And sometimes one may need to seek help for the child, for the young, adolescent, and for the parent.
The parent themselves require, because it is an extremely traumatic experience. So I think besides the child, I think parents too need that kind of support, because I'm sure it is new to the parents themselves, like they don't know how to handle the situation. Now besides the anger, the like you said, in some situations the guilt, what are some other emotions that the child goes through?
So children, again, as per the age, they show a lot of anxiety sometimes. So a very small child may show it by getting scared. You may not see it directly, but they'll be bedwetting, or they'll be clinging, they will be scared of certain spaces, they won't want to go there. So that's related to the anxiety about the separation. An older child also may show irritation, or may kind of like I've had young children cases where they will be in their own world in the classroom. The teacher will say what's wrong, there's a difference in the child's behavior, because the child will kind of not mingle with the other children. So you see this kind of behavior, because children cannot express what's happening, but you can see it in their behavior. Right. And even with the older kids, like the adolescents, they get into risky behavior, like they'll get into, say, relationships. Just get into relationships for the sake of getting into it, or get into using substances. So they get into these kind of behaviors to kind of deal with
what is happening with them.
Yes.
So yes. True. So yeah. True. But older children normally are very combative. They either keep quiet, one completely, or some of them are like, why, like, don't you realize what you're doing to me? Are you only thinking about yourself? Why are you thinking about yourself? What about me? What's going to happen to me? Is one of the other common reactions that you have from this age group. So what does the parent do?
Yeah, it's natural for children to kind of think that their parents' life should revolve around them. So they should be the center. And it's important for the parents to explain to the child that yes, we love you, but we are individuals, and we also need to kind of deal with our own lives and move on in a way that we also deserve to be happy and
right.
Okay. So they need to one needs to explain to them that I know you're worried, so you acknowledge the feelings. I know you're worried, you're anxious about your future or what's going to happen to you, but then assuring them that if you're separate doesn't mean that your life is going to change a lot. This is what is going to happen. These are the arrangements that are going to happen. You are going to meet your mother or father, say, once a month or twice a week or 3 times, if that is possible. So making them realize that you need to do this for yourself, but you're also considering his feelings or her feelings, and trying to find ways by which his life it doesn't get too disrupted.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You know, Gracie, I know of a child, I mean, a family that was going through divorce, and the son said to his parents, "Y'all are the most selfish people I've ever seen. I don't know why I was born in this family." He even went to the extent of saying that. And I remember the person, you know, who told me, and she was crying so bitterly, and she said, "I just don't know. I have so much to handle on my own, and there are so many issues involved, and to top that I also have to handle this." So it is now, when I'm speaking with the child, how much information should I give the child? If he is or she is younger, they don't understand much, but a little older, like a 13 or a 15-year-old, like, how much information should I give them?
It's important for them to give them enough information for them to understand that there are differences, without blaming the other person, like not kind of washing all the dirty linen in front of them, saying that, you know, he did this and he did that and I said this and I did, and creating that, because that makes it more difficult for them. So they do not need too much of information, but they need enough to be able to understand that there is a problem in the relationship, and they know it. Children are
Very astute.
Yeah, yeah.
Children are very astute.
Yeah, they know that there's a conflict, there's something happening. They're already scared. They're worried that what's going to happen. So talking about their feelings, telling, I know you'll feel bad, or you'll get worried that this is happening, but this is the only solution for us at this point. I've done XYZ to be able to keep this marriage together. We both have done it, but it doesn't seem to be working, and we need to be separate. So, but not getting into, most parents' biggest mistake, they make
absolutely it is, because I think parents are going through, you know, their own trauma, their own conflict. They are most of the time they're angry at the other other person, and the blame game starts. Now this is one thing that I know for a fact that it shouldn't happen. You know, most people don't admit it, but you are scared. You're not just scared for yourself, you're scared for your children, you're scared about the family, because there is everything said and done. No doubt we are moving ahead and we are becoming very modernized, but still we have that at the back of our mind as to, what am I going to say to people? My family is what first I'm concerned about, and how do I go about handling that? So there is that, and that is why you are at each other's throats and you are putting each other down. At the same time, there are couples I know who want the marriage to work, so they are trying everything they can, and even, you know, they say everything is fine in love and war, and it is something like that. It is a situation where you want the partner back, you want the marriage to work, you don't want the divorce to happen. So you're fighting not just for the marriage, but you're fighting for yourself and for your children, right?
Yes.
Now, we have spoken about the emotions that normally children go through when their parents tell them about the divorce, or when the divorce proceedings are going on. But there are some children, Gracie, whom I have heard of, do not show any emotion at all. And that's more scary. Still waters run deep. And it's so true, because you don't know what's going on below that surface. And in a situation like this, what should a parent do?
I think it doesn't mean the child is not feeling anything. They're feeling, but they're not able to express. Sometimes the anxiety is so high that they're not really able to express those emotions. Giving them an opportunity as much as possible to express in any way that one can. You know, it could be through, depending of course on the age, through stories that you kind of read to them, or just doing some work with them, like artwork or other things by which they can express those emotions, is one way to do it. Seeking help is another, like finding not maybe a counselor or somebody who can talk to them, But even if one can find other adults in the family that understand the situation and can be there for the child, because sometimes the child may not be able to express their emotions to the parent, but may be able to express to another adult. Like I've had cases where an aunt, who understands, or the child is close to, so the mother kind of talks to the aunt and says, I'm worried about my child, he's not showing, he seems to be very closed. And then the aunt speaks, takes him for a walk, takes him out, talks to the child, so it gives them opportunity to kind of express. So finding ways by which you can get the child to be able to express their feelings, to talk to somebody, and if that is not happening, seek help. But also expression of emotions or getting it out doesn't always have to be verbal.
Right.
It can be in different ways, or getting them involved in music or other things by which they could kind of express those emotions, art. So these are ways that one can use.
Right. We spoke about the blame game, which is common, and I know it. Besides that, what are some mistakes that most parents make before as well as during and even after the divorce?
Yeah, besides the blame game, very often parents kind of feel guilty themselves, so they tend to either overdo in the sense spoil the child a little bit, so you keep all your disciplining aside because you feel guilty that the child is going through this, and therefore you kind of indulge them, which is a big mistake, because what's happening and what they're going through doesn't mean it changes your role as a parent. And keeping this, most important thing is to keep a routine, the same routine in the child's life. So that's one of the most important things, whether the child is small or slightly, a bigger child. If, like say for example, if you have certain systems in your house, that the child should play till 8 o'clock and study at 3 o'clock. You have certain things that you have discussed and you have it. But when the divorce happens because of guilt, the child kind of says, oh, let me watch TV, or let's go, I want to eat this.
Oh, I want this, or I want
this,
that.
yes.
Right.
And the parent then feels guilty and says, oh, he's going through so much, it's okay. And that's the mistake that we do. Because at that point, it's very important for the child to have that normal circumstances or space in his life where the parent keeps the same rules, keeps the same routine, and makes him feel nurtured in the same way as it was before. Because otherwise things can really go haywire, because then the more the child knows, he starts demanding more, and then suddenly things are completely out of control.
Right.
Yeah, so that's one other big mistake that a lot of parents do.
Now you're saying maintain normalcy. I'll give you a situation that I know of. It happened. So this girl, the husband and wife were going through their divorce, and their daughter used to be taken to school by the husband. So when the husband moved out, he had already moved out. When he moved out, the girl refused to go to school, even though the mother kept saying, I'm taking you to school. She used to throw such a tantrum. She refused to even dress up. And I know, because every time, her mother tried dressing her up, she would remove her clothes, she would scream and shout. And this went on for quite some time, I think a little, about a month or so. And she had decided, the mother had decided, okay, fine, let it be, let us just give her a break, because she is going through a lot as well. So is that okay? Because in this example, you don't have an option. If I were the mother, I wouldn't know what to do. She's screaming and crying, and I can't take her there because the teachers will say, please take her home, right? So what should I do?
It's not an easy there's no easy answer to this, because it's one case that this happens. But ideally, before they separate, it would have been ideal for the parents to talk to the child about what will happen next, because she's in kindergarten now.
She is in the third standard.
Yeah, and at that stage, what she needed to know. So ideally, it would have been good for both the parents to kind of talk to the child, and both parents assure her so that there's going to be this change, but this is what it's going to be like. That's one. The second thing is that it's come as a shock, and then she's reacting with this kind of behavior. Yes, I think the mother, it's fair enough for the mother to have given her, some time.
Some leeway.
Yeah. But there has to be at some point where the mother has to put her foot down and say, no, we have to go to school. These are the consequences if you don't go. Like there are cases of kids who kind of, it depends on what the child. If the child wants good marks, then you kind of say, this is going to happen. You're not going to say they like to be part of some competition, they like to be part of sports. So just making them look at what is going to happen if they stay at home, or if they stay at home and the mother has to go to work, what's going to happen, how it's going to be, or what's the situation, because the mother is not going to do anything special for the to occupy the child's time. So the child needs to understand that by staying back, this is not helping me in any way.
Right.
So really making the child look at it of what it's going to be for her, and then explaining that okay, things we have to change, that this is how it's going to be. The child may also be doing this with the hope that the father may come back. They do a lot of things just for the hope that things may change.
Yes.
Because that's the age when they kind of imagine that maybe something will change.
Like a fairy tale story where
Yes.
things are all going to work out. There will be a magical wand, and once you move it like this, things are going to all fall in place. I have known a lot of children who are where parents are going through divorce, where of course there is, sometimes it's really extreme and sometimes there is absolutely nothing, like we just spoke about. Now my next question to you is, what are some co-parenting boundaries that need to be there?
So some of the things is what kind of arrangements are made. For example, if say the father has gone and the mother is looking after the children, there will be some arrangement for the father to come and see the children, say maybe once a week or once a month or twice a month. Now it's first of all, it's important for them to keep the schedule, like respect each other's time. So if the father says, I'm going to pick her on a Saturday and come, take her to her grandparents and spend some time and bring her back, the father shouldn't then suddenly change his mind, because that makes it difficult. So like being respectful of that. Second is that if there's a lot of conflict, trying to keep the conversations minimum when they meet. So that if you get into any conversation, it may get into a conflict in front of the child. So for example, if you're meeting somewhere, if you just the bare necessities with regard to the child. Okay, I'm going to pick up the child, I'm going to take the child, or we'll need to do this, or we'll need to do that. If there is a big conflict, sometimes with divorces also, what happens after some time, the parents are able to speak without getting all those conflicts in there, and that's a different thing. But even then, keeping it very, very minimum in front of the child, so that the child knows that there's a difference. So these are certain kind of things that, and then again the parenting, like being on the same page, making sure that you don't, if there's something to be communicated, you find ways to communicate to each other without trying to send messages through the child. But sometimes the father may send a message, tell your mother,
exactly,
why are you doing this, go, you tell your mother that she shouldn't be teaching you this. The mother will say, oh, you've come back from your father and you're behaving like this, tell your father next time don't give you ice cream, or don't do this. So avoiding these kind of conversations with the child, understanding that makes it more difficult for the child. So if you have any communication with each other, do it, find another way. You can email, you can WhatsApp, you can do it separately without involving the child into that conflict, because again it's like a whirlwind you're getting the child into. So these are some of the things I can think of that are very important.
Right. It's time for a short break. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back soon. Welcome back to the Navin Times Talk from the Heart. We are in conversation with Gracie Andrew. We are speaking about co-parenting during, after a divorce. Gracie, we last spoke about how parents, what they should do and what they shouldn't do. This is, as far as the parents are concerned, some of the things we should avoid. Now, when a divorce is going on, it is not always that the family members are supportive. Obviously, I mean, it's just obvious that if I am going through a divorce, my family will stand up for me and will somehow or the other find that there is something wrong with the opposite person, or they will find that we, will encourage us to still continue in this marriage. What happens when I am a working woman? I go to work one day, I'm going through the divorce, I'm staying in the family home, and I come back and I find that my daughter says that you are a horrid person. Why are you doing this to daddy, and why are you doing this to me? I don't want to talk to you, because the grandparents, the extended family has spoken negatively about it. How do I deal with this situation?
So what I would like to say is what you do before. So before something like this happens, I think it's important for the mother to speak to her family and explain to them that whatever happens, we should not be doing XYZ. Like, I know you're feeling bad for me. I know there's been some things that have gone, maybe something on my side, something on his side, but we do not want to talk about it with the child. So basically, getting the family also to understand that this is not what you want. This is not good for the child and for you. So that I would do before something like this happens. Now, if you've not done something like this and the grandmother has said something to the child and the child comes and says it, then my reaction would be, maybe you're feeling really horrible. So really acknowledging the feelings that the child is feeling and getting the child to express. And they may say, okay, grandmother said this, you did, whatever. And then trying to tell the child that this is what you hear, but this is something that there is something that has gone wrong between the two of us, and we tried sorting it out, giving the same message, and it did not work, so we are separate, and therefore we do not want to discuss that, whatever that is between us, what has gone wrong between you and your father. We won't get into that. And I understand that you're really feeling that I'm a horrid person, but I've done what I could, and this is what I need to do to move ahead. But I love you and I care for you, and I'm feeling bad that you are feeling,
you're going through this right now.
Yes.
Right
so
now.
Really acknowledging those feelings that the child is having, and then again after that having a conversation with the family and telling them that this doesn't help the child. This is how, it's better to not bring these conversations or talk about these things to the child, because then the child starts having these kind of feelings and it becomes worse for them. So I know it's not easy.
It isn't.
Because the family may not accept.
They are not going to. They want happiness for their children, and they want, if in most cases, they want the family to stay intact. They love their grandchildren or their nephews and nieces, and they don't want that to break up. Now, so far we have been speaking about the parent and the child. Now comes the very tricky part, when the parents who are going through the divorce or who are already divorced already have a partner. When another new person comes into this ratio, it is very difficult. It becomes very difficult, because this new person, it could be the father has a new partner or the mother has a new partner, and he or she starts interfering and says, this is not to be done, or this is to be done this way, or tries, or in some situations that I know of, tries to be over sweet, over nice, because they want to get into the good books of that child, and they spoil the child. how should we navigate the situation?
It's a difficult question because again, these are like different people and the intentions can be different.
They are.
So one is depending on what your relationship is with your ex, and to be if your relationship is such, or it has reached a stage when you can talk about certain things, then having a conversation with him and the partner, and kind of coming to some kind of a consensus about the child, that these are, can we kind of come up to some consensus on what we accept and what is not acceptable. Now if that is not possible, again it's difficult. Then how do you you can have because we are all adults, one can have a conversation with the other adult about, say, especially not focusing, and when we have a conversation, not focusing on what you don't like about her, but about the child and the behavior and how that is impacting the behavior and what could we change about it. So having these kind of adult to adult conversations without getting into some kind of a blame or saying you're doing this because you can get so angry and you can say you're doing this to my child because you want the child to like you and think that I'm bad. So
right.
So trying to avoid those kind of conversations, always thinking of what's best for the child, and then from that perspective having a conversation with whoever the adult is in the on the other side.
Right. In your experience, in a situation, have you come across situations like these where the third person, comes in, or both the parents have different partners? Because adjusting for a child to adjust to this situation with a new parent coming in, and in some situations there are step brothers and sisters or half brothers and sisters, then it gets sometimes very toxic because each one has their own area, domain, and they each protect that. They don't want the other coming in and they try to keep them away, and then there is conflict, and a lot of conflict. So how do I teach my child that, listen, dad's getting married, or dad is married and he also has other children? What else do I need to explain to my child about this?
So for the child, I think giving the message very slowly rather than just suddenly. Sometimes the conversation would start with, sometimes when a couple are separate, they find another person that they feel close to and they get into a relationship. Getting him to okay, what do you think about it, and then going into the conversation about your father's getting married, instead of just suddenly telling him this has happened and your father's found another partner or whatever. Secondly, not getting into again criticizing and saying see how he did it or how fast, or getting your frustrations out in front of the child. So basically, again, child in front of you, how do I make him feel okay? Then letting him kind of, what do you think about it? After some time, maybe they'll have another child, so he'll have a step brother or sister. So asking again, bringing these conversations around, depending on the age of the child, in general, talking about these circumstances. Sometimes this happens, then the family has, you step brother, you have a step sister, but that person, the brother has another mother, and it's confusing. But you can also be friends sometimes. So you kind of give them what reality could be in general. Then give them an opportunity to talk about their feelings or express those feelings. Sometimes one could feel a little jealous, why that step brother with my father, why I'm not there.
Sometimes I think it is just natural.
Yes,
I think it's natural for if I were my father and mother are going through divorce and my dad suddenly has another child or has children from his partner who have come into the marriage, I would be so angry with them.
Yes,
but that's true. I mean, it's just so natural.
Yes,
isn't it?
Yeah. And acknowledging that it's natural for you to feel angry. It's like grief, it's like a loss for the child. So basically, that the child is going through all these emotions, and therefore just acknowledging and letting the child express those emotions, and then saying, but this is reality, this is how it is going to be, and how can we make things better, what can we do, can we be friends with them, what do you should we meet them, and that also depends on the circumstances, what is the relationship you have
Between,
with the ex.
yes,
Yes.
absolutely,
Yeah.
between the couple.
Yes, yeah, because very often they have an okay relationship and they meet, and sometimes they don't meet, but keeping that neutral self of yours in front of the child, that if you want to go and meet your father and a partner, or meet your step brother, step sister, how would you like to do that? Because the child shouldn't feel guilty. Sometimes the child may feel that if I go and say yes, then my mother will get angry with me,
True.
or I'm kind of letting down my mother by accepting that I should go and see my step brother or
Yes.
sister. So acknowledging that maybe you'll feel that you're not, but actually you're not. You can go and see them, or you can meet your little step brother or little step sister.
Correct.
Yeah. So it. I'm not saying it's easy, and very often one needs help to be able to do this, but it's important from a child's perspective. Yes.
And in a situation like this, I have noticed that the child sometimes is so torn apart. Not sometimes. I think that I take that back. Very often is torn apart because he or she doesn't know, whose side I should be taking. I love my mom, but at the same time I love my dad. But when I tell mom that I love dad, she gets upset, she gets angry, and vice versa. Also, the child pretends, they put up a face, they pretend like I have another mom, it's okay, it's fine. And sometimes they are fine. Sometimes, Gracie, they are fine. But when it comes for the mother to remarry or mother to have a partner, I have noticed children get really upset. They are like, why? What happened? No, I don't want another father. I'm fine. My father is there. I'm fine. Then what happens? Suppose I want to get remarried. I'm divorced now. I want to remarry. But my daughter says, why? What is the need? How do I make her understand? What do I need to say to her?
Yeah, it is. You're very right that when a woman says they want to get remarried, children do react.
I've seen it so much in so many families, and it's like this. The child develops a sort of hatred for the mother. Like, can't you just be alone? Can't you just do things on your own? Why do you need another person, right? So what should the mother do?
Again, I think it's important because for the child, it's like the mother is the center, and like she's the center, he's the center, and the mother's life should revolve around, and the mother is not an individual, a separate individual with her own needs, and making them realize that I have my needs, and I love you, I care for you, and I'll do everything that I can for you, but I also have my needs, and I like this person, and I'd like to be with this person. And I know that looks like you're getting angry and upset, but this is something I need for myself. And the child may take some time, because society is such that it's difficult for them to accept it. But if you are firm and say, these are my needs, and that has got nothing to do with my love for you, or it's not going to get less because I have a partner. So there's also the anxiety,
A lot.
If the mother is going with another person, is she going to care for me enough?
Less,
is she going to have
I
another
know.
baby? If the mother is young, is she going to have another child?
baby.
What's going to happen to me? So there's all these anxieties, and one can talk about it with the child. Of course, depending on the age again. But if it's an older child, sometimes when these things happen, a child, one can feel that my mother is not going to care for me, or she's going to do this. But I'm going to talk to you about it. You can always come and talk to me, whatever you feel. But I care for you, and I always love you, and I'm here to, I'm there for you. But these are things. This is something I need to do for myself.
Right.
So the message always has to be there, and that nurturing self of yours has to be what the child sees and feels confident that will be there for him, in the future.
Just one last question. You have answered so patiently, but there's one last question. What would you say constitutes good co-parenting during and after a divorce?
What I would say is, first of all, that if a couple decides to divorce, they discuss about the children, what are the arrangements, and what is the messaging they're both going to give the child. You know, it's very important to discuss. That becomes a very important part of the discussion that they have when they decide to divorce, if they care for the child. This is in case a couple cares, both of them care for the child, but they decide that they cannot live, you know, together, and they need to divorce. So discussing what the message is going to be, what are they going to tell the child, if possible talking to the child together, and then of course thinking about all the arrangements that are going to happen, and making that very clear to the child. This is how it's going to be. This is how, when you'll meet your father, this is what is going to happen in the future. So, and then having good parenting practices where both of you agree that this is going to, how we are going to bring up this child.
So basically finding a common ground.
Yes.
That common ground is important, and agreeing to the common ground,
Yes.
Gracie, is a major hurdle.
Yes.
Right? Yes, please continue.
Yeah, so what I was trying to say, yes, if you cannot find it, then you need help, to get somebody to help you. But that's very important, that you saying the same things and deciding not to have any conflicts, or whatever conflicts you have, to keep it away from the child. So it's between you. So if you're giving that message to the child, then showing it in action.
Right.
Yeah, that's very important.
Right. Thank you, Gracie. Thank you so much. Learned so much. It is hard sometimes to listen to this when you are going through it, because you know the anger, like I said, the anger, the envy just comes bubbling up. But everything passes, and it is very crucial to view divorce as a separation of partners, not the breakup of the family unit. The child should be important, along with ourselves, of course, but the child should be important, and we need to find a conducive environment, and we need to make the environment conducive for our children, for those who are going through a divorce or who have gone through a divorce already. That is all from all of us here, from the Goa 365 channel, from the Navin Times, from Gracie and from me. Thank you so much for your time, for your attention, and until next time, take care.